All right, settle in and listen closely, because tonight we're diving into the kind of stories that make you question everything you think you know about fate and free will. We're talking about 3 seemingly innocuous choices made by real people in moments they probably never gave a second thought to, but these weren't just any choices. These were ripple effect choices, the kind that would completely change not only their lives, but literally millions of other people's lives as well. These aren't just anecdotes. These are true, chilling turning points where a single action, a single decision, carved a path that nobody, not even the people living it, could have ever predicted. Imagine a man strapped to a chair facing death. His last words, whispered into the cold air of an abandoned factory, are about to become something truly monumental, something that will be plastered on billboards and heard around the world, but not in the way you'd ever expect. His final words made billions. The year is 1977. The place, a desolate, abandoned canned food factory in Draper, Utah. It's a big, cavernous open space, empty, save for one single chair pushed against the far wall. In walks Gary Gilmore. He's 36 years old, surrounded by guards, not because he might run. He'd been waiting months for this, but because protocol demanded it. Gary, a convicted murderer, had been sentenced to death just a few months earlier. His case was everywhere. His mother, the ACLU, they were fighting for his life, pushing for a life sentence. But Gary didn't want it. He didn't want to spend the rest of his life behind bars. He actively pushed to go forward with his execution, and he was very specific about how he wanted to die. He wanted to die by firing squad, and that request had been granted. So, Gary walks to that lonely chair. He sits down. The guards secure his wrists and ankles, strapping him tight. Gary doesn't fight it. He just stares straight ahead. Across the vast empty space, there's a big curtain. And in that curtain, 5 evenly spaced cutouts. Gary can't see through them, but he knows what's there. He knows that behind each cutout is a police officer, armed with a rifle. His firing squad, the guards finish. They back away. A chaplain approaches, reads Gary his last rites, and then the chaplain asks, "Gary, do you have anything else you want to say?" Gary looks up, just a few words, simple, profound. He says, "Let's do it." The chaplain backs off, signals the squad, and then rifles poke through the holes, and they fire. Gary Gilmore is dead. Now fast forward 10 years. It's 1987. We're in Portland, Oregon. A young marketing executive, a man named Dan Whedon, is in a meeting. Dan owns this marketing agency. He'd just landed a new client, a small business with a lot of promise, looking to expand. Dan believed they could be huge, but they needed something, a strong marketing campaign, something to make them a household name. For hours, Dan and his team brainstormed. Ideas, concepts, pitches, but nothing felt right. Nothing was a slam dunk. Dan was getting frustrated. He sat there, racking his brain, wondering what they could possibly do. And then it just came to him, an epiphany. He hadn't been thinking about it, but suddenly the execution of Gary Gilmore 10 years earlier popped into his head. It had been all over the news, a big deal at the time. And Dan remembered that very particular detail, Gary's final words. Dan made a choice, a subtle tweak. He took Gary Gilmore's last words, the defiant final declaration of a condemned man, and he slightly changed them. He used them to fuel his advertising campaign for that small business. And it worked. Amazingly, this campaign literally doubled that company's business practically overnight. The slogan became arguably one of the most famous slogans for any business in the entire world. That slogan? Just do it. And that small business, that client, it was Nike. From the chilling final words of a killer to a global brand that inspires millions to push their limits. A bizarre, unexpected connection, right? But the currents of fate run deeper than we think. Sometimes it's not just a person's last words that change history. Sometimes it's a fight in a fast food restaurant. It's 2009. We're in London, England. Our subject is a 23-year-old man named Chris. He's on a date, a McDonald's dinner. Not exactly romantic, but it's all Chris can afford. He's broke. He desperately needs the job interview he has the very next morning. This date, this McDonald's, it's just meant to be a quick stop before he heads home to prepare. The McDonald's is a mess, dirty, loud, packed with people. No tables free. Chris and his date finally find one. A single guy is sitting there minding his own business. Chris politely asks if they can share the table. The guy agrees, they sit down, they start eating, chatting. Chris, though, is distracted. His mind is on that crucial interview tomorrow. He's anxious. Then he notices the other guy. He's stopped eating. He's staring at Chris's date, not friendly. Chris snaps out of his anxiety, looks at the guy, what's going on? And without provocation, the man starts to speak. He begins insulting Chris's date, insulting her looks, the way she talks. Chris is stunned. Did he miss something? The man continues, then points at Chris's date and says, "You're an ugly pig." That's it. Chris, who has never been in a fight in his whole life, just reflexively stands up. He confronts the guy. "Hey man, get up!" But as Chris stands, he realizes his mistake. Chris is only about 5 feet 8 inches tall. This guy, when he stands up, he towers over Chris. He's huge. Still, Chris isn't scared. He's defending his date's honor. He winds up, hits the guy once, and then this huge guy just proceeds to beat the living crap out of Chris right there in the McDonald's. The next morning, Chris walks up to a big fancy building in London. He has that important job interview, and he has something else too, something he picked up the night before, an enormous black eye. He's embarrassed, mortified. What will they think? He looks like a ruffian. He knows this could affect his chances. What was he going to say? "Oh, I got in a big fight at McDonald's last night." No good excuse. He goes into the interview. He can tell they're staring at his black eye, but nobody says a word, which in some ways makes it worse. He finishes feeling like he blew it. "I'm not going to get the job," he thinks. But then, shocking news, he got the job, and it might have been because of his black eye. You see, this wasn't just any job interview, it was an audition for a starring role in an upcoming TV show. And the character Chris was auditioning for, he was this guy who sort of got into fights. So when Chris, with his enormous black eye, walks in looking like someone who gets into fights, the interviewers think, "Oh my goodness, he can hit his lines. He's got the charisma. And look at him. He's even a ruffian in himself. He fits the character perfectly. He's our guy." Chris got the role. And that TV show, it became one of the most popular TV shows in the entire world. Chris, from barely affording a McDonald's dinner, became an amazing actor, nominated for Golden Globes and Emmys, an A-list star. Today, Chris is known by his stage name, Kit Harington, and the life-changing role. Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, a black eye, born of a McDonald's brawl, leads to global stardom. The universe, it seems, has a twisted sense of humor. But what if a moment of youthful rebellion, a simple college prank during a time of strict rules, could set someone on a path to change childhoods for generations to come? The year is 1925. The place, a dorm room at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. Our subject, a 21-year-old senior named Ted Geisel. Ted and his friends are having a great time celebrating. You see, Ted is about to graduate with honors. And even bigger for him, he'd just been named editor-in-chief of Dartmouth's humor magazine, Jack-O-Lantern. Ted dreamed of becoming a professional writer and publisher. Everything felt like it was falling into place. They were drinking gin. This was Prohibition-era America. Illegal. They knew it, but they were celebrating. The bottle was passed around, laughs echoed, stories were told, then a knock on the door, silence. Ted, heart racing, opens the door. It's not more friends. It's 2 police officers, busted. Fortunately, the police don't press charges. Dartmouth doesn't expel them. But Ted gets pretty severe punishments. He's stripped of all his academic honors and extracurriculars. And that means he's no longer the editor-in-chief of Jack-O-Lantern, but it gets worse for Ted. He's told unequivocally that he can't even submit anything in writing to the magazine. He is totally banned. Ted is heartbroken, not so much about the academic honors, but about being cut off from Jack-O-Lantern. This was his path, his dream. He considers fighting the school, but he knows it's useless. They won't change their minds. But Ted isn't ready to give up on the magazine entirely. He remembers that Jack-O-Lantern accepts submissions from the public, and then an idea sparks, a clever, defiant idea. Okay, he thinks, I'm not allowed to submit anything to this magazine myself, but maybe if I come up with a different name, a pen name, then I can submit my work. They won't know it's me, and maybe I can get something published. And that's exactly what Ted started doing. The new editor-in-chief of Jack-O-Lantern had no idea this pen name was actually Ted. They were wowed by the work. They thought it was some brilliant new writer, and so they began publishing all of Ted's work. Ted strangely liked this pen name. It fit the vibe of his writing, so he kept using it all through Dartmouth. And then, after he graduated, he just kept writing under it for the rest of his life. Under this pen name, the name he basically came up with just because he got caught drinking in the dorm in college, Ted would go on to write and illustrate over 60 books. These books would entertain and inspire generations of people. His contributions to American literature and education were so profound, he even won a Pulitzer Prize. Ted's full name was Theodore Geisel, but the world knows him by his famous pen name, Dr. Seuss. 3 lives, 3 seemingly small, even negative choices that cascaded into unimaginable outcomes. Gary Gilmore's defiance in death creating one of the most powerful marketing slogans in history. Chris's unexpected brawl in a McDonald's leading to global stardom on the biggest TV show in the world. And Ted Geisel's college escapade igniting the spark for a literary legacy that changed childhoods for generations. It just goes to show you, doesn't it? Every single choice we make, no matter how small, how innocuous, how seemingly insignificant, has the potential to set off a chain reaction that can completely change not only our lives, but millions of others' lives as well. The echoes of those moments, those split-second decisions, resonate far, far beyond what we could ever imagine. What small choice have you made that unexpectedly changed your path? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more strange, dark, and mysterious stories. Until next time, stay safe out there.